Hey, this video is about how race and nationality play a factor in your PPC campaign's results. People, basically, bottom line, are racist. We all, I think, know that to some degree, but it's more than you would think. And the racism that naturally people have, whether you have your own opinions on that, it is what it is. And as we are trying to get PPC campaigns to work, you could try to go with the flow or against it. PPC is, as I mentioned on this channel many times, it's about delivering what your consumer wants to see. If whatever you have makes the user think as little as possible and get what they want as quickly as possible, with everything else ultimately the same in terms of the product you're delivering, the prices, you do that one thing better, you're going to be the one that makes PPC work. Other people are going to make little or nothing from their PPC. So we as PPC advertisers don't have much choice in the matter as to, we either got to deliver what people want or the campaigns aren't profitable. So with all that disclaimer out of the way and to the side here, I'm going to explain how you can actually play to people's preferences to get, in terms of how race and nationality plays a factor in delivering what you need to deliver to your users and what they want to see and their race and their nationality, so that you are able to always get PPC to work and not have race and nationality play a factor. For other people, this will be just simply a way to get more conversions and money out of your PPC campaigns just by catering a little bit better than you were before in terms of these two items here, and showing them basically what they want to see. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to give you several examples of how I actually changed landing pages, videos that I was advertising in terms of race, nationality, and stuff, and got more money out of those campaigns, and to give you a general idea how this is done, but also why, and a confirmation that it really does happen. And you do have to think about what you're doing in terms of the models, the race of models that you show, your videos, what voice, the nationality of your actors on your videos, all plays a factor in how much money your PPC campaigns are going to make more often than not. Okay? So with that said, I'll get right into it now. People, believe it or not, are a lot more prejudiced than you think or people say they are. We're in a world now, PC culture, you have to do what you have to do, and I'm not disputing that. That's not what this is about. Deep down, good marketing is about the best marketers. They know people say why they buy, but what they say why they buy is not the real reason they buy. It's another reason they don't say. And if you're going to be the best marketer, you got to figure out why they really buy, and tap into that. What they're thinking about but won't tell you, basically. What's that deep down prejudice or psychological need or want that they have that they don't even really know how to express it, but that when presented the choice will respond to that choice because that's been down in their and embedded into their psyche, if you will, that they want that, and you got to kind of figure out what that is. To give you a quick side example of that, in the laundromat industry, they had found that when they wanted, the most profitable thing in a laundromat is getting people to fill up those really big washing machines, because it costs like $5 to wash one, and get people to bring in their comforters on their bed, because usually you have to have like one of those ones to bring, and it just gets people that have money that normally have a washing machine bring their stuff in, so it widens the customer base. And they found that people don't want to bring those in because they're afraid that they don't have their blanket at night, and people think of their comforter like their blankie that they had when they were a kid. So through all that research, they basically just came up with a way with their advertising that they did to try to get people to bring their bedding in, to say, as a whole, guaranteed to have it by time we close to rid that potential fear. So people want to get their bedding washed fast. That's why they wouldn't use their home washer. And it's not really home washer isn't really set up for like a comforter anyway. Most people will want to go to the laundromat. They just don't want to not get it back that night. And so they want to get it there, they want it fast. And they don't want to not have it for that night. They took care of that issue, massively more sales on whenever they would pitch that in their advertising to try to get more people to do that. So that's one example of how to tap into people's psychology and really learn what people really want to do well with marketing and market for that, not just, people say they want their comforter washed and then just say that only because that's what they say they want. That's not what they really want. People in this case, they want to see someone like them. If I'm a white person, I want to see a white person. If I'm a black person, I want to see a black person. If I'm a Hispanic person, I want to see a Hispanic person talking to me, selling to me, communicating to me. Why? Because I like people like myself. It's not even prejudiced. So this is the big dispute, right? People like them. It doesn't have anything to do with race. If you're old, you like hanging out with old people. If you're a kid, you like hanging out with kids. If you're, in the U.S., there's all kinds of different pockets where different immigrants hang out. Filipino, Armenian. They have all these, like in L.A., they have Chinese, Korean, all these different people. They all live together because they like being around people like them. They aren't prejudiced against everybody else. They just prefer and really do like, or just say prefer, being around people like them. So you got to account for that, knowing that in your marketing, if you're marketing to someone, given that they have a preference to see and hear things from people like them, and if you don't have that, then automatically you're going to see a discount in your response rates in your advertising as a result. So it's not a prejudice, it's just optimizing. So in many cases, not all though, people will be more likely to do business with you seeing a person like them staring back at them from the other side of the screen. What they see, it's a lot more like them in general, they're going to buy more, not less. And I verified that through testing, and you're going to be able to see the same thing if you run some tests after watching this video and being inspired by the video itself, and you want it motivated to go out and do it. I say not all, because in not every case that's the case. Some people, they're going to want to see someone other than their race because maybe they think subconsciously that their race is not good enough to do, like they will. And I'm trying to not stay, safe here to where I don't get attacked or whatever. But let's just say I'll flip it around so I don't get attacked. I'm a white person, but for some reason I don't think white people are very good brain surgeons. I want the best brain surgeon, obviously, because I don't want them fucking up my brain when they're operating on it. It's not like, hiring a cleaning company if they screw it up. I'm mildly disappointed here. I don't care if I'm, seeming racist here or not. I want the best job, period. My life's on the line here. I don't think white people can do it. I want Hispanic people. In my mind, because through all my past experiences, I've figured out that Hispanic people are more competent in general, so I want a Hispanic person. And in general, if the general sentiment of all the people that you're marketing to has that general idea, if you don't have a Hispanic person on your page there, because usually a landing page has on it some people on there, if you're selling services, having people on there, well, just in general, just as a side note, not having people on a landing page, generally I'm not going to get the same conversion rate. It's the same thing with ads. For some reason, having somebody on an ad works better. And with that, by the way, as far as like what really works well on ads most of the time, or more than half of the time, is a face on an ad, because there's a part of your brain that is dedicated to quickly recognizing faces and can recognize and interpret meaning from a face itself than other things. So in terms of you scrolling down a feed on Facebook, for instance, and then seeing an ad with a face on it, you can quickly determine what that is quicker than some other random object. And so therefore it would make sense why that would get a higher response rate, because part of what you have to do to make money with an ad is get the user's attention first. And without them cognition, through their own cognition, recognizing what's on the ad, they're not going to be able to understand and get their attention per se, or whatever. Or they got their attention, but they didn't understand what was there quick enough before they scrolled past it, and therefore you lost your opportunity. So, respectively, at the end of the day, you want people on your landing pages, because that usually gets the best results, as I've found, and I've tested hundreds and hundreds of landing pages now over the last 15 years. So you can take my advice on that. And then when you're going to do that, what's the race of the person going to be? What's the nationality of the person going to be? If you have a video, same thing. Who's going to be the actor on the video? Is it going to be African American, white? Is it going to be Asian? Whatever. And and videos with an actual person in it, again, even if it's just their hands. You got a video without some human in there somewhere. It's very, very hard to make that work. So you're forced to decide who needs to be in there. Is it going to be male, female, all that stuff as well. Every single PPC project you basically have, unless you're selling a product like an e-commerce product, you're doing Google search ads, then obviously in those situations you don't need it, but mostly in all services. And if you're doing any kind of video ads, you're forced to figure this out. And before, you may have just winged it because you thought, oh, what does it matter? Most people don't inherently think about the race of the person or the nationality of the person. Or as I'm telling you right now, it matters a lot. So maybe you got lucky and picked the right one, maybe you didn't. I'm going to explain why you might want to rethink this. Depending on your market, people will be more likely to call or buy if they see someone with the same race or nationality as the models you have on your landing page, or i.e. video, which I'll get into also here in a second. Places where I've seen this thing, i.e. one race over another, affecting PPC results before, is on this particular list. So I have 4 things here. I'll start with my experience in the legal area, specifically immigration law, immigration lawyers, that kind of thing. Okay? So we first of all, what we did, we worked with several immigration lawyers. Usually, if I work for one immigration lawyer, anything with like local businesses, and respectively, even if it's a national business, if I ran a campaign for you and I've gotten great results on it, and there isn't like an ethical issue, even if there is, we'll change just enough about it to where there isn't an ethical issue anymore, so that if you're going to come to me and you also have an immigration law firm and you need marketing for it, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, which nor do you want me to. I'm going to take the same ads and same landing pages to make it work for you, because it'll get you results faster and I got to work less. So we had an ad and a landing page that respectively, when, like for instance, if you have a campaign that works for a plumber in Dallas, Texas, if you use that same ad and landing page formula and campaign setup that you had now in Denver for a plumber there, it will work like plus 25%, get the same lead cost with changing out, using exactly the same thing except for like the city name, and that would be the only thing you would change out. That's how it works, using stuff from one market and then switching it over to the other respectively across the board. So when we did this in the legal space, when the immigration lawyer was white, there was no problem making this campaign work. It worked very well, in fact. I had another immigration attorney, which they were all Hispanic, okay, couldn't get the campaign to work nearly as well and in general. So we had the same campaign, same ads, works fine with the white people on it, okay? Use the Hispanic people on it, did not work nearly as good. Respectively, with that, if we were in an area where we had mostly Hispanic people, I'm 100% convinced that that would work fine there. Okay? Because I also have seen where in other markets and dealt with people where they actually they did the same thing, that a Hispanic immigration law thing, and they were running in the city in a city that was more so made up of Hispanics in general, and it worked okay. But if you try to, as a Hispanic lawyer, run a campaign in a city that doesn't have a high percentage of Hispanics in general to capitalize on, the campaign probably won't work that well like it did in this particular case in the city that we were in that didn't have a gross amount of Hispanics in it, because obviously everybody else, well, we'll just say hypothetically, this is what I'm thinking, everybody else didn't want to hire a Hispanic lawyer if they weren't Hispanic. You have all these different, there's lots of countries out there and lots of different nationalities and people that want immigration help. So if they're in the U.S., the idea is they want to hire a traditional, Caucasian lawyer or whatever. They don't want to hire a Hispanic lawyer because they're not Hispanic. That's the way that it is. They are Hispanic. They absolutely, very much want to hire a Hispanic lawyer and know that that's the case. So what you have to do is evaluate what is the kind of the percentage of all the people that you're targeting. What's the percentage of people of the different races or nationalities that they may be? But we're talking about races here, though, specifically. And of the models that I'm going to show, or maybe it's me, I'm the lawyer, I have to show myself, is it going to work showing a Hispanic person there when I know only 10% of the people searching for this is actually going to be Hispanic? Probably won't work, given what I told you here on this particular case study and in general. Okay? So, respectively, if there was a way that we could have filtered down so where we could somehow just go after the part of the city that has Hispanics in it, then now we're talking. Now that having a landing page in an ad or just landing page in general and search ad on Google search, sending people that are typing in immigration attorney, getting to the landing page to see a Hispanic person there works great. But again, in this particular case, in a city that wasn't primarily Hispanic or just doesn't have that many in general, like 10% or less, people that were searching for immigration attorney, getting to a page with a Hispanic immigration lawyer on it, didn't work that great. In another market that has a high percentage of Hispanics, when people were searching for immigration attorney and get to a page that automatically just had a Hispanic lawyer on there, it worked great. Okay? And again, if the same ad, same landing page combination that had a white lawyer on it in another city worked great. So in general, it all comes down to, from this particular story I'm telling you, what is the main grouping of the people that you're marketing to, what is their race, and then you're basically stuck with having to use that particular race on your landing page a lot of times if you want the campaign to work. Okay? Given that everything else was the same besides the race of the person that was on the landing page. Of course, the look of the person, but in general, it's the race that caused the issue here. I just know that what you're going to get to work in one city that's primarily one race won't work in another city or the same city, I should say, if a different race of person was put on there based upon the demographics of that city. Okay, you go to a whole different city with a different demographic profile, with different ratio of race of people, where instead of being 10% Hispanic, it's 30% Hispanic. You have a landing page with a Hispanic lawyer on it, it works. Why? Well, it's still only 30%, but the people who are Hispanic who see it are going to convert like astronomically high, like 3 times the rate what anybody else would convert, because they, being Hispanic, really like the fact that they're going to work with the Hispanic. So it balances itself out. It overall will work, even if 2/3 of the people were, not Hispanic, see the page, don't convert. 30% who hit the page who are Hispanic convert 3 times the rate, which is about what it is. Your numbers work. But when you're at 10% or less of the people who hit the page actually being Hispanic, it doesn't work, because the math won't work then, basically, is my point. So that's, with all that said, like I said, you could try to possibly sub-segment. Anytime a PPC doesn't work, as I mentioned on this channel many times, you shouldn't give up. All you have to do is sub-segment what you're doing. And you sub-segment and you sub-segment so that you can be more relevant to different sub-segments of your audience that you're targeting. And with that, you'll be able to cut out certain segments that don't work, and of the segments that are left, you can be more relevant, and it'll get a higher response rate, which means your cost per lead or cost per sale will also go down, because the higher click-through rate on your ad being more relevant to just those people, and you can be more relevant because you know who it is, so therefore you can speak directly to them. You'll get a higher return, and now the campaign economics work. So when you're talking about race, you're talking about, without being politically correct here, you're talking about geographic, or could be income technically, but we'll just say geographic to keep it safe here. And that's what I wanted to actually prove. I actually, knowing this whole situation and coming out and learning a lot from it, and knowing when somebody has that may be a different race that wants to run a campaign like this, knowing that when somebody searches for immigration lawyer, we don't know if they're black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. We have to look at the demographics of that particular city or who we're targeting, audience that we're targeting, to know if I'm wasting my time setting up that campaign. I took that information, and in the AC repair space, and in the city of Chicago, we had a campaign running for a while. Okay? We made a landing page for it to improve the campaign already. Their site, usually I do a landing page for like an AC repair company right away because it gets such a good result. Sometimes their site's actually not that bad. Then eventually we'll upgrade to having a landing page. When I make a landing page, the best or the most important part of a landing page is what they call the top part, and it's called above the fold, or before you scroll on the landing page at all with your mouse, what you see by default there. And the default way that works the best on any kind of like service like this is you have your headline, maybe a subheadline, then your call to action button underneath it on the left side, and then on the right side there'll be a picture of a guy fixing an AC unit, so that when they get the page they know right away just by looking at the image this is what I came for, and they do what I'm here they do what I need them to do. If they type in AC installation, you want that image to be somebody installing an AC unit. If they typed in, so you'll have to have different landing pages for different keywords. If they type in AC repair, you want that image being not somebody installing an AC unit, but repairing an AC unit, and try to break it up into categories like that. It'll work much better that way. But in general, that was a white male that was installing the AC unit, repairing the AC unit, okay? Chicago has different demographics. So I really wanted to see if there's a way that we could get more response rate out of our landing page by not just using a Caucasian guy for everybody. we're based and not catering to different races based upon different races want to see different. Ideally, they want to deal with somebody differently. So I know it's a little bit baiting people. If you had a different race of person on your page, and really what the guy shows up as a Asian person or whatever, then basically it's kind of bait and switch. But they could think that. I don't think it really is. But in this particular situation, I know switching it to a African American person for everybody in Chicago probably wouldn't work. We never officially tested that, but what I did do is I split up the campaigns. Normally, by the way, I have my campaigns split up, as I mentioned on other videos. So each city over like 100K population within Chicago or within the city that we're marketing, if we're marketing the whole metro area, I'll break it up so every city over 100K gets its own campaign. But we got to where we could single out just the South Side Chicago, which has like 90% African American, and we tried there a African American person there on the right side, installing the AC unit, repairing the AC unit like I talked about before, which is normally on my landing page. So we just switched it. Okay, that got double-digit increase in conversions in the South Side area where we switched it. Everything else we left it as it was. But if you know, basically, the name of the game, the story here is, or the lesson of the story is here. If you know your demographics are almost completely one race or another race, and it's a different race in which you're using as your models right now, you can guarantee, almost guaranteed, 99% sure, increase your conversion rate switching the race of the model to the race that's in that particular area. Even if it was 50% plus, you could probably get a gain. But if it's 90%, that's like a free gimme. Double-digit improvement on the conversion rates, which doesn't sound like a lot, but respectively, if you're making $1 million a year on your advertising on Google Ads, and you get a 30% increase in your conversion rate, now you're making $1.3 million, assuming that you got that on everything. Now, the South Side Chicago, that's only 20-30% of the population, 10 to 30% somewhere. So your 30% increase really only gets you about 8% increase in revenue. But it's an extra $80,000 a year, and all you had to do was just switch the photo on your landing page to have you want to keep the photo exactly the same or as close to as you can. You obviously sometimes can't get the same exact photo, and you can't Photoshop as somebody that's African American in there, but you could find a similar photo. Or, obviously, you could, if it were my business, I'm not using stock photos. Stock photos are short-sighted. They're going to get better results, trust me, not using stock photos. I mentioned this on this channel many times. I'm going to get a model to go out there, take the exact same pose, but it's an African American this time, and get my extra 80 grand a year because I added that one little sub-segmented what I was doing and tried to have the races match up to the demographics that are in each area of my city like that. So that is one way to improve your results. And if you're not getting good results because maybe you think people are so-called racist and they don't want to hire an Asian lawyer in my city, well, figure out where most of the Asians are, just run your campaign there. And maybe you won't be able to make as much, but at least you'll get some versus not making anything because you're running at a loss because you're trying to assume everybody wants to hire an Asian. So you get the idea. Moving forward here, I did work for a charity campaign before. So it was like giving Christmas, they were collecting items to give away to kids' homes that their kids don't have Christmas presents, basically. I'm sure you've seen this before. They had a little landing page, and respectively there, on the landing page, we just, basically, and also knowing about this, understood that basically what race of kids there that are on there are going to compel somebody whether they are going to go ahead and go through with this or not, because people are inherently biased. I'm not trying to say I'm biased, but people are biased. And if you want more donations, you're kind of forced to only do one thing. We had on the page, there was actually a mix of different ethnicity of kids in there. When, as wrong as it is, or how disappointing as it is, when we switched it to just Caucasian only on the page itself, the conversion rate increased quite a bit. Okay, we're another in the double digits range. So, with that said, all we had to do was change out the photos of the page a little bit, of the ones that had mixed race. Why is that? Well, it goes back to the demographics thing again. You got to think about who's the buyer. Even though, and I'm trying to not piss anybody off here. So really, I'm not. Because everybody's got their own biases. This isn't fair to pick on any one thing. I'm Jewish anyway, by the way, so I'm not really white. You can't get mad at me. With that said, you have to think about who's the one donating. If most of the people donating are upper income, and most of the people that are upper income are of one particular race, well, you want the pictures of the kids in that case, since that's the product basically in this case, to be of the same race. You're going to get more people to be more sympathetic and more willing to give if they think, because what you got to, in this particular case, they're going to think about the kids that are in their neighborhood, that everybody knows somebody who mismanages their money or whatever. They don't have, their kids don't get any presents or whatever, or not as much as they should. They feel sorry for them, and they think of that when they are propositioned with your offer here to give to kids. And they're just less familiar with seeing another race of kid perhaps not having the same opportunity because they're not around them. It doesn't emotionally affect them the same way. So whether or not people should do that or not, that's totally irrelevant. You want to give to, all of it to different races, that's up to you. But if you want the more donations, you got to think about what the buyer wants. And the buyer generally wants somebody that is going to come to them and do what they're supposed to do. Or if you're, in this case, if you're giving, give, as we found, to somebody who's also similar to them, because that's what they identify with, basically. So interesting enough, that was the case with that particular case study. Apart from that, now these are all about landing pages here, okay? Video, it's also the same thing. I mentioned I would get into that. We had a company who sold an EMF protection product, which helps, so you don't radiate your brain basically when you're on your cell phone and computer and stuff like that. Really works. Video campaigns. We had video campaigns going on YouTube, and on those video campaigns there wasn't a model. Okay, it was like a explainer video basically, not like a cartoon animated one, but like, well, it was animated, but it wasn't like your typical animated explainer that people think about. It had like, regular icons and stuff that were moving around or whatever there. So, but what it had was, you saw all these different icons moving around. There was text that would come up, and there was a voiceover explaining what was going on the whole time. And at some point we decided this guy was only selling domestically in the US, and we found out at some point that, okay, we're making, and what you should do if you're selling a product, if you can do it, I'm making money, let's figure out how we can sell internationally. And generally speaking, you start out with the countries that have the most income first, because those are the ones, for about half of the people, that will only make money. UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and that's it. You start there at least. And with that though, we did that with the search campaigns, and then we did that with the video campaigns. with the video campaigns, we ran an experiment, which in this case is so cheap to do, where you could have the voiceover in a different dialect. So the video ad that would run on in Australia explaining why this product works, how it works, why you don't want to radiate the shit out of your brain and not try to protect yourself at all. That was put into by an Australian voiceover actor instead of an American voiceover actor. And so that in itself, just changing the voiceover, improved the campaign results as it did in the other markets like clockwork. All of them, of those 4 countries specifically there, it worked. They didn't go out to other countries because it wasn't profitable enough. Other people in other countries, well, for the most part, a little bit. You know, there's some other countries that work, South Africa, some in Europe, but in general, which I won't get into here, but for those where we were able to change the voiceover, given that we don't know how to write, ideally he should have went ahead and got voiceovers and done it in another language and try to run it in other markets like that were non-English speaking. But of the countries that were English speaking, that were the primary ones making money anyway, changing the voiceover to another dialect helped the conversion rate. In this particular case, it was actually more than double in terms of the increase in conversion rate that video got compared to the one that was there before. The one good thing about advertising internationally is the traffic and the cost per view on like a video campaign is always less, like half. And so if you could get half the cost per click that it does cost to run the same ad in the US and about the same conversion rate you would get anyway, which the conversion rate in these other countries is almost the same as the US, but usually it's not quite. But now you can have a voiceover, or let's say a different actor that's in that particular country redo the script, and now you get 150% increase in conversion rate. Now those videos are extremely profitable. And so, and other people that run video campaigns outside the US, by default I always tell people that you want to have the video remade for each country, because ultimately it comes down to, it's like this, it's about realism. If you see a commercial that came from another country, you're just not going to trust it, okay? And if you are looking for information about how to protect your brain from EMF radiation on a cell phone, you click on the ad, and it's in an American accent, and you're in Australia, you're automatically not going to trust it as much, right? So it's kind of almost required to make money in a lot of markets. If you're not doing it and you're making money, you should definitely try to make the videos with a actor that's different for each country, or a voiceover that's different for each country. Since I mentioned here, even the voiceover, just changing that to a different dialect, works tremendously well. And so keep that in mind. That's where the nationality part of this thing comes in. If you were running a display ad, like a banner ad in other countries to expand outside the US or outside your country, respectively, for that, just, obviously I mentioned, you can translate it for people. If the other thing that kind of works is, in the UK and England, they spell things slightly different in the way that they type. So if your landing page has things spelled in the UK way, that'll increase conversions. There's a lot of different kind of ways to do this whole thing in general, but which I won't get into. But specifically, given that that the voiceover, just by what I told you, the voiceover, if you just change the voiceover to somebody that speaks in a different dialect, given it's still English, and that's all you had to do, and you'll right away get about 100 to 200% increase in conversion rate. And I haven't done this yet, but why don't you go, knowing that fact, or if you're not advertising internationally, why don't you try to take that concept as a whole and apply it to a regional context? Meaning, even if I'm assuming you guys are mostly in the US. If you're not, it would apply to you guys in your own country too. But for the US, since I know it the best, in the US we have different people all over. So since it's such a big country, people down south talk differently. People in Northeast talk differently, right? And so with that, why not, if you have a video ad that works that has a voiceover, change the voiceover to somebody with a southern accent and see what happens. I almost guarantee you're going to get a higher conversion rate doing that. It goes along with the thing I mentioned before, that on your videos, if you want to get more out of a video campaign, and you make 50 videos, or even let's just say 20 videos that all mirror each other, but at the very end or the very start you say, hey Denver, hey Minneapolis, hey San Francisco, then the conversion rate goes up a ton, almost double in it itself. So, and because you know that works, why not change the actual for the southern states to get a little bit more? If you did that, or if you don't want to do that, just get somebody a southern actor to do the same script. You probably for sure get more sales that way. So why not do that? And same thing for the Northeast. And same thing technically I guess could be said about other pockets of the country, but those are the two main ones, right? In your country, Gary, maybe that's the different pockets of where you're at speak differently. And given that if somebody that I'm prejudiced against people that are not from the South. If I am in the South, everybody's prejudiced against people that are not like them, as much as they say they are. That gave proof of that in this video. So you sell to me using somebody that's from the South, of course I'm buying. It makes total sense, right? Apart from that, just as a side thing, one thing I always do a lot here is I convince our clients to do testimonials, get testimonials if they don't have them, but specifically video testimonials, because people believe those the most. You can't fake a video testimonial. If you had a bunch of testimonials and you have those show up for people after they hit your landing page through remarketing, and I use remarketing on every campaign I have because it usually will double your overall potential of your first click coming in, having good remarketing after it. That's the case, I don't care the market, because frequency is more important than reach to some degree. That if you have a bunch of testimonials, pick out the ones that are people from the South that you have, and make sure the people from the South see those testimonials. Okay, even if it's written testimonials. If you have like John C. from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you have like 100 testimonials, the testimonials that you should see on the landing page hypothetically should be the ones from as close to their area as you can, because that's going to have more trust. But really, and completely relevant to what I said here, if you have video testimonials, make sure they see the ones that have the people that have the dialect that they have, and you're going to get the most response for that. And if all you have to do is just make sure they see this set of videos versus this set, if they're from here, versus if they're from here, they see this other set. Obviously that takes you 15 minutes to set up, and you're going to get more profit forever once that one small change is made. So anyway, instead of nationality, regionality, in terms of people being biased about who's not from their region of the country, can also be the same as well. Could even be city. Obviously people from New York have a different accent than Boston. People that are not from Boston won't trust New York as much as somebody from Boston. And so if you can get somebody to speak in a Boston accent for your video, you'll get very, very most likely more conversions. And then you can do that. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there as well, because everybody has their own biases, and you can work with them or you can work against them. So that all said, hopefully this made a lot of sense. Hopefully it will inspire you to go out and try to do something for yourself like this, make more money on your campaigns that you're running right now, or just to set you up for success so that you don't run into a bind when you're trying to do this for yourself and do things the right way starting out. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos on this channel about other PPC money making strategies. If you want to learn how to make a ton of money with PPC, you should definitely check them out. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how I build my campaigns for our clients to guarantee their results. If you want to see along the lines of what else can be done and more on a step-by-step basis, you can find it there. If you have any questions about how nationality and race and stuff like that affects your campaigns, what you should do, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a day or two time myself. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in my next video that comes out another day or two with another great PPC strategy on it. See you then.